Welcome to Grounded Wellness. I'm your host, Bethany McDaniel, founder of Primally Pure, mom of 3, and biohacking enthusiast. We created this podcast to bring you practical advice to live a more vibrant and intentional life rooted in long-lasting health. We record right here on our regenerative farm, grounded with our feet in the soil, exploring bold truths, overlooked wisdom, and holistic tools that support true well-being. These conversations will challenge everything you know about health and wellness. I am so excited for today's conversation. It's one that many of you guys have been asking for, and it could not be more perfect timing because June is Acne Awareness Month. Today's guest, Maria Marlowe, is someone who I deeply respect. She is a certified holistic nutritionist, an author, a podcast host, and someone who truly gets the emotional toll that skin struggles can have because she has lived it. After years of trying every conventional acne treatment out there with little to no success, something I can relate to, Maria discovered something that changed her life: the healing power of food. This conversation is filled with practical tips on how to heal your skin from within, the grocery store mistakes making it worse, and why true beauty has nothing to do with injectables. Let's dig in. Maria, welcome to Grounded Wellness. I'm so excited to have you here to talk all things acne and nutrition. But I want to get started on a personal note because you became a mother about 10 months ago. How has motherhood been for you?
It's been a roller coaster with a boy. It's a lot of movement all the time, but it's been a fun journey, fun roller coaster.
Oh my gosh, I fully get that. We were just talking about being boy moms before the show. It's wild.
Yeah.
And you had a home birth.
Mm-hmm.
How was that experience for you?
That was amazing. So even before I got pregnant, I was very confident and felt like I wanted to have a home birth. For me, I felt like that would be the most natural way to do it. And luckily it all worked out. And I was a 7-hour labor. I actually spent pretty much the entire time between the shower and the bathtub. Eventually got in the birth pool. And the baby came out. And I will say that it's not all rainbows and butterflies, a home birth. It still hurts. It was the most, it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, for sure.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Personally. Yeah. I did home births as well.
Yeah.
And loved it. Amazing experience. I mean, I did it 3 times, so I kept, coming back for more. But it was not like those peaceful videos that you see online of home births where they're singing or humming gently. It was still very intense for me.
It was very raw, and it was very I say it was very fast and furious, and definitely not for the faint of heart. I thought my husband might faint, and everything going on. He didn't, thankfully. But it's intense, and had I not prepared myself for it and really understood physiological birth and what was going to happen when, and there's definitely that point at transition where you're just I can't do it anymore. I want to give up. But knowing that was going to come and knowing I was going to experience that, I was able to say, oh, okay, I'm in transition now. I know it's not much longer, and just let my body do its thing. I had learned about the fetal ejection reflex. You know what this is?
What is that? No.
Okay, so whenever I am interested in something, I do extensive research, as you'll see with nutrition and acne and all this stuff. So with birth, I did a super deep dive, and I needed to learn everything I could possibly learn.
I was the same way.
And so I learned that mammals have something called the fetal ejection reflex, which is when the body is ready to give birth, it literally pushes the baby out. But when we watch TV or movie shows, right, they're always push, 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 push. And apparently you don't have to actually push. Your body will push it out. So I said, wow, this is a crazy concept. Why have I never heard of this before? Nobody's really talking about this. I was I want to experience this for myself. And the idea is if you just wait long enough, your body will just open and push it out. And that is exactly what happened. So I did not physically push. My body just took over and pushed.
Yeah. You never pushed?
No.
And made the intentional decision I'm going to push?
No, not at all.
Interesting.
So there's something with, when you dilate and you get to 10 centimeters, that's when you're supposed to start pushing basically. But apparently it actually opens a little bit more than 10 centimeters. So if you wait a little bit longer, that's when it kicks in. But it will really only kick in if you're calm and you don't have like an epidural or anything like that. So it's a bit of a waiting game, but it works.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you also had a viral reel about eating dates in the last, is it 4 weeks, 8 weeks of your
4 weeks.
pregnancy, and how that can speed up labor. Is this something you tested personally?
Yes, it is. And I will say my labor was 7 hours, which is very short for a first-time mom.
Super short.
Super short, because I believe it's about 20, 21, 24 hours, something like that for a first-time mom typically. So I can't say for sure if it was just the dates, but I can't say that it wasn't. I don't know. It was a very quick labor. But anyway, how I learned about it, I spend half my time in Dubai, and one of my friends is from Saudi, and there it is customary that people do eat dates before giving birth because it's believed to help with birth. And so I was like, okay, let me try it. Let me look into it. There are actually a few studies that have looked at it and have found that women who eat, I guess 5 to 7 dates in the 4 weeks leading up to birth.
Every day.
Yeah, it's ajwa dates. So they're the smaller dates. They're not like the
Okay.
big majul dates that we usually get. They're these small ajwa dates. It has been shown to reduce labor time, like reduce need of intervention, and basically speed things up.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Okay, if I have a fourth, I'm going to give that a try. I mean, what's the downside? Like,
Exactly. There's no downside. Although I will say I love dates, but I was sick of dates at the
Can
end
you
of
put
it.
them in smoothies?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can put them anyway in any recipe you want. As
Okay.
long as you're
Interesting. Because I had great birth experiences, but they were like, I pushed, so maybe I shouldn't have done that.
It's okay. Don't say should. You're probably cool.
Yeah. I mean,
It's okay.
it all worked out.
Yeah.
Fine. But I will say, like, it was extremely challenging, especially like that last phase of like pushing the baby out, and maybe dates would have helped. I don't know. It's worth a try, I think.
You might as well, and you'll have something to compare it to. I had nothing to
Exactly.
compare
Yeah.
it to, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The female body goes through so many changes, and our skin all throughout pregnancy. What changes did you experience personally, and how did you support your body nutritionally or with supplements throughout your pregnancy?
So one thing that I was aware of and that I wanted to make sure I prevented, well, two things would be acne and stretch marks, which are quite common during pregnancy. So with acne, I think the three things that helped, prevent me from getting any breakouts would be that I kept my blood sugar stable, which is really, really key. Sometimes it's hard, especially in the first trimester, if you're really nauseous and you can't keep things down and you're maybe craving more processed foods or refined carbohydrate foods. I get it's tough, but if you can try and, push through that and eat as well balanced a meal as you can and include your fiber, include your protein, include your healthy fats, keeping your blood sugar balanced is really important. The second thing would be regularity. So a lot of times during pregnancy, sometimes women can become constipated, especially, for example, if you're taking the iron supplement, that can also cause constipation. And then if you're not eating the way, like a lot of fiber, then that could also cause constipation. So staying regular, I think, is really helpful because we know that there is a link between constipation and acne. And then the third thing was just keeping it as nutrient dense as possible because we need to make sure that we're getting, all the vitamins and minerals, not just for our baby, but also for our skin. So those three things helped. And then in terms of stretch marks, I'm not immune to stretch marks. I definitely got stretch marks during puberty on my legs. But knowing everything that I know now, I know that everything that we eat is the building blocks for our skin. So I wanted to support the stretching and elasticity of my skin and try to prevent stretch marks if I could. So it was all about the protein, having a lot of bone broth, having a lot of collagen to really support my skin to stretch and grow and then go back. And luckily it worked.
Nice.
So no stretch marks.
What about topically? Did you do anything topically to support your growing belly during pregnancy?
Yes. So I did put all sorts of creams and lotions and potions on there. I tried a bunch of different things. I think I've used, I used mango butter, something with mango butter. I used black cumin seed oil. And I think there was something else that I used, which I can't remember. But I was just slathering things on there. But I will say it got to a point where I was like, I wasn't doing it regularly, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like it felt so good for you. That's one thing I really kept up with. And I used our baby balm.
Okay.
I'll send it to you for your next baby.
Oh, don't tell my husband that. He's going to try and rush it.
But it has tallow and it has marshmallow root infused into the extra virgin olive oil, which is really good to support like skin elasticity.
Okay.
And then I did all the same stuff as you, like the bone broth and collagen and all of those things, and didn't have any issues.
It makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about postpartum? What are some issues that can arise postpartum, and how can women support their bodies through that phase?
Yeah. So I think, postpartum, we, first of all, are healing. And we're healing from the birth. And then, our body is kind of returning to its state. And so we need actually more nutrients and more calories even postpartum than we do before. And especially if you're breastfeeding. If you're breastfeeding, then, you really need to make sure that you're eating a very nutrient-dense diet, because if you're not, whatever you're having, the nutrients are going to the baby and you're going to end up really depleted. And that's where things like, postpartum depression come in, and, other sorts of imbalances can creep up. So it's really important that we're fueling our body with food. So what I did, in certain cultures, it is customary for a new mom to spend 30 or 40 days kind of resting and being taken care of by her family members and friends. So I was like, listen, guys, you guys are taking care of me. I told my sister, you're cooking for me. My husband, okay, you're doing this. Everyone was, the mother-in-laws, everyone was helping out, because it was really important to me that I ate very nutrient dense after. So I actually printed out a whole recipe book of postpartum recipes that were really rich in minerals, rich in protein, fiber, healthy fats, all of these things. And I printed it out and I was like, okay, just make me these things.
Wow, that's so great. And I think that a lot of women forget about that. Like, we focus so much on pregnancy and the birth, and then forget to kind of like support our bodies afterwards as well.
Yes.
And I've heard you talk about gray hairs as well.
Yes.
Is that something that a lot of women experience postpartum?
It can be possible because, especially if you're breastfeeding, you're not keeping up with, enough minerals in your diet. And there's other factors as well. But if we are lacking certain minerals, that can actually cause premature graying of the hair. So it is really important. Like, I do have some friends who are like, every time I give birth, I feel like I have more gray hair. And it's like, okay, because you're probably lacking some minerals at that point, because the body is just using up so much of it. We really need, it's kind of hard to get it solely from the diet. Like, at some point you probably need to supplement just to really support your body.
What do you like for a mineral supplement? What would you recommend?
So for minerals, I mean, I do like taking electrolytes. So I think that's really important with hydration. So one recipe I was making all the time was this ginger switchel, which is like water, ginger, lemon, electrolytes. It's really delicious. So I drank that all throughout labor and then also postpartum. And and then I would say if there's a certain deficiency, then I like to kind of, do it based on what the deficiency is.
Is there anything women can do to prevent, it sounds like, getting ahead of the game in terms of like taking the minerals and eating nutrient-dense foods? Once the gray hairs appear, is there anything that can be done to reverse that?
Yes. Okay. So first of all, seaweed, I would say, is actually my favorite way to kind of get minerals.
Like just the seaweed snacks?
Yeah. So there's all different types of seaweed. So like sea snacks are one, like the nori sheets, those typically are. But things like dulse, wakame, arame, like there's all different types of seaweed, and they all have slightly different minerals in them and amounts of minerals. So eating them regularly. So one soup that I made pretty much every single day for, I think, 30 days was this Korean postpartum soup, which is basically beef and seaweed. And I would have that every single day. And I feel like that really helped me with my energy, and especially because you're not sleeping at that time. But I felt really good at that time because I was just nourishing my body. So I would say seaweed is my favorite way to get to get minerals.
Nice.
Okay, now in terms of, yes, if your hair has started prematurely graying and it's caused by a mineral deficiency or heavy metals, that's another possibility.
Which deplete your body of minerals. Right?
Yeah, so that's kind of the balance. With heavy metals, when we have higher heavy metals, they do block the absorption and utilization of minerals. So you kind of have like a double-edged sword there, I guess. And so what we want to do is we want to get rid of the heavy metals and also increase the minerals. And if that is the cause of the gray hair, then yes, it's very possible to reverse it. And I've done it. Like, I've been doing it for years. So I've had over dozens of hair start to turn back. You can see like the top is white and then the bottom is my natural color.
Interesting. I didn't know that was possible.
Yeah.
I've heard also PRP injections in the scalp can help to reverse grays. I haven't tried it personally.
Yeah, that I'm not sure. It's definitely possible. I mean, another thing that's really helpful is bringing circulation to the area, because first of all, we're all like hunched over on our phones all the time. And then this, our muscles in our neck and our back, they all get tight, and that can start to block blood flow. And if we're not getting good blood flow to the scalp, that means we're not getting the oxygen and the nutrients there.
Yeah.
So for me, I actually noticed when I would press over here on top of my ear on this side, because interestingly, I only had gray hair in like one small area, like one line right here on the right side. And when I was pressing, I said, oh, wow, I have like a knot here in my head. And so using acupuncture and scalp massage, I was able to kind of break that up and get rid of it. And I believe that also helped with circulation and getting those nutrients where they needed to be.
Yeah, that makes sense. Every night, like after I take it, if my hair's up or whatever, like I will always just spend time like massaging my scalp, and it feels so good.
Yeah.
And I just think like, I don't know that most people do that, but it feels so, like once you start doing it, you just become like addicted to the feeling, and you like can't not just get in there and like massage the heck out of your scalp.
It's so good. It's even good for hair growth, and your hair, it looks nice and thick and healthy. So a scalp massage has been shown to increase hair growth and even increase hair thickness. So it's definitely, it works. I also like do you ever do oil massage?
No,
Oil scalp massage?
don't, because, I feel like it'd be so hard to wash out.
It is.
Yeah.
It's very hard to wash the oil out of my hair for whatever reason also. You really have to give it a few washes. And I wash basically with conditioner first, and then I do shampoo, and I feel like that helps to get it out.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
But the scalp oil massage is really nice. I try to do that once a week. Not every week, but as often as I can.
Okay, maybe I'll try that sometime. I feel like it's already hard for me to get all of the oil out of my hair when I wash it, because I wash it maybe every week and a half or 2 weeks. And so there's a lot of buildup in there by the time I wash it, and I have to do like 2 or 3 rinses with shampoo to even like get my hair clean without oil. So I'm like, if I put oil in my hair, would I have to do like 6 washes just to get this stuff out?
It's possible.
I don't know. Maybe it's worth it. I'll give it a try.
Well, you know what? If you're doing the massage, you might not need the oil. Because I will say sometimes I get out and I think my hair is clean, and then I'll dry it and I'm like, nope, there's still oil in there.
Yeah. We have a lot of moms in our audience. What would you say to any new moms who just had a baby? They're in that first year. Maybe they're feeling overwhelmed trying to care for themselves and their baby. How would you encourage them?
I would say it gets better with time. Every month, I feel like. And just rest as much as possible. And this is something that's very hard for me, because being from New York and being very go, 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 and always wanting to do things and feeling like if I'm not doing something, I'm not being efficient or productive. Becoming a mother has helped me realize that slowing down is something, and it's okay to slow down. So I think just resting, because your body is going through so much. You're taking care of a baby. Your body is healing. If you're feeding the baby, it's even more of an exertion on you on top of that. So just rest, be gentle with yourself, and, don't look at social media where you see these moms who are like 2 weeks postpartum and they're in Ibiza in a bikini or something, That's not real. That's not common, right? Most women are at home also struggling. Like, motherhood is hard. It's not easy. It's fun. It's rewarding. It's beautiful, but it is also very hard. So I think I think more women need to talk about the hard parts because we tend to only see the happy parts on social media. And we need to also know that, okay, it is really hard. Breastfeeding is really, really hard. It's very challenging. And getting the baby to sleep and all of these things are all really challenging. And I think just knowing that you're not alone and giving yourself grace.
That's good advice, especially with the first baby. We were talking about this earlier. It's like your entire world changes overnight and you now have to adjust to that. And your body's depleted from pregnancy. And then if you're breastfeeding, that's like even more of a strain on the body. And it's all amazing and worth it. And it's miraculous, but it's challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's shift to the skin. Tell us about your personal journey with acne.
So acne, I had really bad acne for 4, almost 5 years. And I tried just about everything to make it go away. So I started with the drugstore topicals. Then I graduated to Proactive, was very popular at the time. The infomercial.
I remember that. All the kiosks in the mall.
Yeah. And then I went to the dermatologist and I was prescribed antibiotics. Worked for a little while, but then once you go off the antibiotics, the acne came back and even worse. Then I was prescribed birth control. I was prescribed spironolactone. I was eventually prescribed Accutane, which at that time, it was a lot harder to get an Accutane prescription. It was really the last resort when you kind of exhausted everything else and it wasn't working. So I'd kind of went up that totem pole of acne medications. Nothing was working over the course of almost 5 years. And I remember finally getting that prescription. I remember filling the prescription, picking up the bag from the pharmacy. And stapled to the front, there's that little sheet of paper with the side effects. And one of the side effects was severe depression that could lead to suicide. And I was like, what? Like, that is insane. And I was already feeling quite depressed about my skin because I had internalized that there was something wrong with me because I was doing everything I was supposed to do, whether it was what my dermatologist told me or all the magazines at the time told me that I was supposed to be doing to clear my skin. And my skin wasn't clearing. So I was like, there obviously must be something wrong with me. And I saw that side effect and I was like, you know what? Nothing else has worked. I'm not willing to take this risk with this side effect. I'm not going to take it. And at that point, I kind of was just relegated to the fact that I was cursed. I had bad luck. I had bad genes. I don't know, bad karma, something. I had this acne. And so it persisted a while longer. And then eventually I got to college and I was eating lunch with a friend and complaining about my skin. And she had mentioned, she's like, it might be caused by what you're eating. And I was like, that's crazy. I've been to all these different dermatologists and not one of them have ever asked me what I was eating. She's like, yeah, you should try it. And meanwhile, I'm sitting there, by the way, having 2 slices of pizza, Coca-Cola, and Entenmann's chocolate cookies. So anything would have been an improvement off of that. So anyway, I was like, okay, just tell me what to do, give me guidance. And long story short, I overhauled my diet, worked on repairing my gut, and within about 3 months, my skin cleared up.
Wow.
After 5 years.
Wow.
Which is insane.
That is wild. Our stories are so similar, and I won't go through all of it, but I mean, basically what you just said is my story also. And I point blank asked my dermatologist at one point, like, can I change anything about my diet or lifestyle? I just felt like there had to be something that was causing it, but I didn't know how to figure that out at the time. And I asked her and she said, nope, it's purely genetic. There's nothing you can do other than use these creams and take these antibiotics. And that was the answer she gave me. And at one point, I remember even like wanting to be on Accutane and my mom wouldn't let me, which I'm so thankful for now.
Yeah.
I'm curious, did your doctor verbally tell you the side effects for Accutane, or you just happened to see that on your own?
I just happened to see it.
Wow.
I just happened to see it. And honestly, this is something I feel really strongly about because I know a lot of people, side effects, not everyone's going to get side effects, of course. And I know people who've taken Accutane and are happy that they took it and they seem fine, they're good. But I also know a lot of people who were injured by it and severely injured. And, there's also stories in the news of people who have, teenagers who have committed suicide of this. And I don't think we're doing enough to, educate people, especially children and teenagers, the importance of diet and lifestyle. And I think that that's really where we need to start. We need to figure out what is the root cause. Because acne, this is actually something really interesting. a lot of people think acne is caused by bacteria, right? When we were growing up, that's what you saw in all the magazines and everything. You know, you need to use this cream or scrub, for acne causing bacteria.
It was like wipe out all the bacteria from your skin.
Yes.
And just scrub it as clean as you can, and then you'll be good.
Exactly. Which never worked.
No.
It just made things worse. But so what we now know is that acne is actually caused by inflammation. So in the early 2010s, after decades of research showing that acne is indeed caused by inflammation, not bacteria. So the bacteria that that's called the acne causing bacteria, it's also present on clear and healthy skin, and typically in equal amounts. You can also have someone with acne who doesn't have that specific bacteria on their skin, and they still have acne. And, bacteria may play a role in acne, but it is not that first domino that sets off the whole chain of events. That's inflammation. So now if you actually look at the definition of acne, it's a chronic inflammatory skin disorder. So we really need to understand what is causing the inflammation. And I guess the challenge is that there's so many factors that can cause inflammation. So it's not going to be the same for me or you and every other person. There's going to be variation. And so I do really think that once we understood that acne was caused by inflammation instead of bacteria, that should have really changed how we treat and address acne, but it didn't. Antibiotics are the most commonly prescribed medicine for acne.
Which is insane.
Yeah.
And totally disrupts your gut bacteria, which makes your skin way worse. Exactly. Even if it helps short term,
yes.
It's never going to be a long-term solution.
Exactly. And the reason that it likely is working is because the class of antibiotics that is used for acne also has anti-inflammatory properties. So often what happens is when someone is on antibiotics for acne, their skin may clear up, but once they go off within 3, 6, 9 months, because of the gut dysbiosis that was created, the acne comes back, and often with a vengeance.
You mentioned spironolactone earlier, and I feel like that is often seen as a more mild acne medication. But what are some side effects of taking spironolactone?
So spironolactone, it's an anti-androgen. So that's often why it's prescribed for acne. It's kind of like an off-label use. So side effects, you could have things like dizziness and like headaches and that sort of things. It's also diuretic. So you're also going to be losing minerals and electrolytes. So you can end up with nutrient imbalances, and then it can also affect your period, your menstrual cycle. And you can't take it if you want to get pregnant. So I think, when it comes to medications, there's a time and place for them. But I think when it comes to acne, the first place to start is always going to be your diet and lifestyle, and trying to understand what are the imbalances, what is creating inflammation for you.
So how do people go about doing that? How do they figure out what that trigger is for them?
So that's a great question, because on your own, it is quite difficult. And I will say sometimes people will come to me and say, I already eat quite healthy, but I'm still breaking out. So I think it's important to note that a few things, like everyone's definition of healthy is different, right? So is it actually healthy for your body or not? Maybe you are eating healthy, but are you absorbing all your nutrients? Maybe you have some gut issues where you're not actually absorbing what you're eating. So there's so many different factors at play. So I would say really working with someone, a nutritionist who specializes in acne would really be the first place to start, because they can look at your history and look at your food diary also, and kind of give you a good starting point, because we know that, for example, nutrient deficiencies are associated with acne. So things like vitamin A, omega-3, and zinc, these are very common deficiencies amongst people with acne. And oftentimes, the worse the deficiency, the worse the severity of acne. So, I could look at someone's food diary and say, it looks like you may not be eating enough of this particular nutrient. Why don't you get this tested? And then check, and then, okay, we need to add these foods in. I always like to do a food first approach when possible. Another area or another possible factor could be too many pro-inflammatory foods, whether that's the vegetable oils or the processed foods, the packaged foods. That could be an issue, a source of inflammation. Gut dysbiosis. Our modern lifestyle almost seems designed to disrupt our gut. Whether it's medications we're taking, antibiotics, of course, but even other medications like birth control, for example, can disrupt our gut and also deplete our nutrients. Stress is bad for our gut. It's disrupting our gut microbiome. the chemicals around us, the foods that we're eating. There's just so many things that disrupt our gut microbiome. So if there is dysbiosis there, that can cause a problem. And we know that acne patients tend to lack some of this good lactobacillus and bifidobacteria in their guts compared to healthy controls. We know that they may be more likely to have increased intestinal permeability or leaky gut, which is really the main source of inflammation in the body. It's often starting in the gut with leaky gut. And hormonal imbalances, that could be a problem. But I always tell people with hormone imbalances, it's not your hormones that are the problem. It's the factors in the diet and lifestyle that are causing your hormones to become unbalanced. That's the problem. Because hormones are messengers. So they're reacting to things, right? And they're giving messages based on your environment, your diet, all of this stuff, your thoughts even. And so when there is an imbalance, we need to try to understand why there's imbalance. And I think that's the better way to fix it versus, trying to artificially manipulate the hormones. And blood sugar imbalances, that's a big one. That's another root cause. And stress. I would say those are some of the biggest ones. So really kind of doing a deep dive into your diet and lifestyle and being honest and seeing where maybe you're falling short or where you can make improvements.
Before someone does any sort of testing, are there certain foods that you would recommend adding into your diet and eliminating from your diet in order to improve acne and improve your skin?
Absolutely. Because testing can also be expensive. So sometimes it's enough to just add the things and remove the things that are not great. You may not even need to do the test because it makes such a big difference. But I would say in terms of adding in dark leafy greens and bright orange veggies, these are really great. They're a great source of carotenoids, antioxidants, fiber. So I would say those are really helpful. Anything rich in omega-3. So I love ground flaxseed. I love wild salmon, anchovies, mackerel, sardines. Liver is a superfood for the skin. So whether that's beef liver, like your beef liver smoothie.
I'm so sorry I don't have one for you today. I slacked off and couldn't get it together.
I'm going to try and making it at home when I get, the time to
Okay,
to do it
make
all.
one
I want to
and
try
send me and we'll FaceTime and drink one together.
I love that. Yeah. So I'm really curious how it tastes.
Yeah. If you get it right, you can't taste it.
Yeah. So just doing 1 cube. That's it.
Yeah.
Not 7.
Yeah.
Like
Just
you.
one.
Yeah.
Just one. No, I don't do 7 anymore. I was so hardcore at that time and just chugged it to get it down. But no, you don't even need that much. 1 cube per smoothie is fine.
I also love cod liver oil, which we talked about. Cod liver oil is amazing. And I like cod liver oil because it's also a source of vitamin A and D. And it's very easy. I feel like if you just hold your nose, I guess even like the smoothie, it goes down pretty easily.
It's not bad. I give, we were talking earlier, we both take the same brand, Rosita, and they have the oil, just the pure oil in the bottle. And they also encapsulate the oil.
Yes.
And so I give my kids the capsules and they chew on them and they actually love them.
Oh, really?
They beg for them. It's so interesting.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's great.
And they taste like fish. They're not yummy. They're not flavored with anything.
Oh my God. I know.
But they do, it has a very pure taste, like the Rosita cod liver oil.
Yeah. Mild. It's a very clean and mild taste, which is nice. And if you've tasted other cod liver oils, they taste either rancid or they taste very artificial because there's some artificial flavor.
And a lot of them are rancid, right?
They are, yeah. And I haven't seen any cod liver oil that can match Rosita in terms of nutrients, naturally occurring nutrients, because the vitamin A and the D that are in Rosita cod liver oil are naturally occurring. They use a cold processing, a way of getting the oil, so it maintains the nutrients. Whereas all of these other companies, they're using heat to extract the oil, which is going to degrade the vitamin A and the vitamin D. So they often end up adding back synthetic to bump up the label.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And vitamin A is such an important nutrient for acne, preventing acne, healing acne. I mean, that's what Accutane is, in a synthetic form. And I think that's what's so great about getting vitamin A naturally is it's present in a more balanced combination with, it's in real food form. So you're not going to get the side effects of liver toxicity and other things that synthetic vitamin A can have.
Exactly. Yes. And that's also, I'm glad that you bring that up because that's also a point that I make to people. If you're even thinking about Accutane, first just assess your diet and you'll see pretty quickly whether or not, without doing testing, you can look at your diet and say, okay, am I actually eating vitamin A? Because if you're not eating liver and you're not eating an abundant amount of dark leafy greens or orange veggies, you're most likely not getting enough.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost guaranteed. So I would say, yeah, liver is just an amazing skin superfood. So our body uses vitamin A for skin cell turnover, so it helps to prevent clogged pores. So if you're even considering Accutane, before you do it, assess your vitamin A, try just adding it back in, and you may find that you don't need it.
That is such good advice. What foods across the board would you recommend eliminating from your diet if you're struggling with acne?
So trying to avoid vegetable oils as much as possible. I say as much as possible because, of course, at home you want to eliminate them. But if you're eating out here and there, I think it's okay. We don't want to stress so much that the stress causes a breakout and disrupts our gut. So I think in this day and age, it's inevitable. Of course, we can do our best to choose restaurants that don't use seed oils. And thankfully, there are more and more restaurants that are cooking without seed oils.
But I am that annoying person that when I go out, I will ask for like my food to be cooked in pure butter or pure extra virgin olive oil. Because if you just ask for olive oil, a lot of times that's cut with canola oil. And I used to kind of be wishy-washy about it and feel kind of bad. Now I do not feel bad at all because I'm like, everyone needs to be asking these questions and then things will change. Like if everyone were demanding better, more quality oils for their foods to be cooked in, restaurants would eventually get sick of it and just like switch to avocado oil and butter and, you know, all these.
And well, I think that's what's happening. So I always tell people, don't feel bad about asking for substitutions or to change things. I think that's totally fine. But I also think, and I'm also like that, but I feel like sometimes you're going to come across them at some point. You know, if you're on a plane and you're starving, you know, you didn't pack your food. Don't stress about it that much. Just try to eliminate it as much as you can, but don't go overboard. The way to kind of counterbalance it if you are having vegetable oils is to make sure you have a lot of omega-3s. That's really, really important.
Because vegetable oils are high in omega-6, and when that ratio is too imbalanced, it can create inflammation. Yeah, exactly.
So we want to make sure that our body really has a lot of omega-3, and that can kind of help to counterbalance that. Refined sugar, we don't really have any need for that. And I don't think that means that we can never eat anything sweet or desserts. Fruit is amazing. Trying to use whole like sweeteners as much as possible, things like dates, for example, to sweeten desserts. I think that's ideal. So yeah, refined sugar, we don't really have a need for that. And then I would say soda for sure. Dairy is a controversial one because there is some science on a connection between dairy and acne, and actually a lot of larger scale studies that have shown a connection between dairy intake and acne. Now, of course, this is not looking at raw dairy intake. It's looking at commercial dairy intake. So I don't know that there's any research that's actually looked at the difference between people consuming raw milk, but commercial dairy, absolutely, I would avoid if you're acne prone skin.
I've seen you talk about face mapping before. What is face mapping and what can it tell us about what's going on inside of our bodies?
Face mapping comes from traditional Chinese medicine. And the idea is that where the acne is located on your face can be an indicator of the underlying dysfunction in your body. So typically around the lower part of the face, this is more hormonal based. There's a certain area for your liver, for your digestion. I believe the forehead is digestion. But what I will say, I do think there is definitely truth to it. There's no studies to back this up. Nobody's studied this. But I think that in some respect, our hormones and our gut are really kind of underpinning all forms of acne. And it's really important that when we are trying to get rid of acne, we really start gut first. And that's going to help with the hormone balance and everything else. So face mapping, I think what's great about it is that it encourages us to think a little bit and kind of draw the connection between what's happening on our skin and what's happening in our body. But ultimately, I think really starting with our gut is really, I think all acne is really originating from the gut, more or less.
And we've talked about food a little bit. What are some lifestyle habits that people can either adopt or ditch to just holistically support their whole system, their gut, their hormones, everything?
Well, I think spending time in nature is one of the easiest, cheapest things that we can do to support our overall health. It helps to lower our stress levels, our cortisol levels, which are really important. It's great for our gut microbiome. So I think spending as much time in nature as possible. And you don't need to be out on a farm like we are right now. You could be at Central Park or some green park in your city, even just on a stretch of grass. Studies have shown that literally just even sitting on a patch of grass in your backyard for, I think, 10 or 20 minutes is enough to kind of lower some of those stress hormones. Or listening to the birds, for example.
Yes, I've started every day, like going outside, grounding, listening to the birds recently. And I try to take my kids out there with me. And I don't spend a long time out there, but even like 10 minutes, it really does so much for your body. And I feel like if people could do that in the morning and in the evening, it would just change so much for our society.
I think so. Like one thing that I've built into my day is daily walks. So I do take a morning walk and I take an evening walk. And it's just a great time to, first of all, get a little bit of sun, get a little bit of nature, not be glued to your phone. And I'm not going to lie, there are times I look at my phone when I'm on a walk.
Yeah.
But I try to keep it away and really listen to the birds and look at the greens and look at the flowers and things, because otherwise we're just go, go, go all the rest of the day and we don't have time to think. One thing I also like to do, which I don't necessarily do every single day, but I like to sometimes walk without a podcast, without listening to anything, without talking to anyone on the phone, and just being with my thoughts. Because it's during those moments where I feel like you get the best ideas and the best intuitions and insights, and maybe you're thinking of a problem and the solution comes to you when you can actually be quiet. Because all day long we're surrounded by noise, TVs and phone calls and social media and this and that we never really have time to just let our mind wander. And doing it on a walk, I think, is a really great way to let your mind wander.
I completely agree. I'm really into walks also. And for a long time, I was in the habit of always listening to a podcast when I walked. And so before I would head out, I would like, okay, which podcast am I listening to? Cue it up. And one day I'm like, wait, I don't have to do this. Like sometimes it's nice, you know, but if you've had a long week or a long day that's been go, 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 like we forget sometimes that we can just tune out and like be in silence without having to take in more information. Even that alone can be so good for you and just like such a good way to clear your brain and clear your head.
Restorative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't always have to be doing something.
Yeah. Which is a hard thing to learn sometimes. But once you do it, you're like, wow, this feels amazing.
Right. I feel so much more rested and rejuvenated. What other signs that show up on the skin can be indicative of something going on internally that isn't so good?
Sure. So dark circles under the eyes. If you're actually sleeping and you still have dark circles under your eyes, then you might want to get your iron levels checked, because that could be a sign of iron deficiency. If you have bumps on the back of your arms, like the chicken skin, it's called keratosis pilaris, that could be a sign of vitamin A deficiency.
Interesting. I've had several people ask me about that recently.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's that. I actually had someone ask me about that the other day, and she's like, I go to the dermatologist all the time and they prescribe all these creams and lotions and tell me use this and that. And she's like, it never goes away. I'm like, yeah, you got to get your vitamin A levels checked, or just add some vitamin A into your diet.
Yeah. Some of my nieces and nephews are struggling with that right now. I'll give them some Rosita.
Get some Rosita, or maybe make them your smoothie.
Yeah.
What else? Psoriasis, that is an autoimmune condition, and most, if not all, autoimmune conditions are believed to really start in the gut from a functional medicine perspective, with leaky gut or increased intestinal permeability. So definitely for psoriasis, I would start there. And for rosacea as well. There are a number of people who have rosacea who also have SIBO, which is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. So if you're struggling with rosacea, I would say definitely doing comprehensive gut testing and testing for SIBO.
I want to circle back to blood sugar because we touched on it a little bit, but what are the other concerns with having imbalanced blood sugar? Like, we know it can trigger acne. What else? What's happening in your body when your blood sugar is elevated, and how else can it show up on the skin?
Yeah, so the biggest issue with imbalanced blood sugar, I would say, would be inflammation. And inflammation doesn't just trigger skin problems. It triggers a host of other problems in the body. It's also associated with weight gain, brain fog. So it's affecting our mood. It's affecting our gut health. It's going to be wiping out some of the good bacteria in our gut as well. So it could be manipulating our hunger, right? It can also make you more hungry. And then typically when you start eating a lot of sugar, you just want to eat more sugar. It kind of becomes this hamster wheel. So it's really important that we are keeping our blood sugar stable so that we, we're supporting our gut, we're supporting our skin, our mood, all of these things. And again, it's not necessarily about never eating anything sweet. It's about doing it wisely. So using whole sweeteners, things like dates or fruit are going to be way superior to eating a cookie. And I know it's not as fun. So that's when you have to kind of get creative and use the dates to make a cookie, with some other stuff.
With a steak before you eat the cookie, yes. Not in the reverse order.
Exactly. So that's another big tip is if you're going to eat something sweet, don't do it as a snack, do it as dessert. Always should be dessert. And don't eat dessert first, eat dessert last after you've had a well-balanced meal with fiber, protein, and fat. That is going to help keep your blood sugar more stable. Interestingly, there's also research to suggest that if you have a plate that has, let's say, vegetables, protein, and carbohydrates, the order in which you eat those foods actually makes a difference on your blood sugar. So if you eat the carbohydrates first, and then the veggies, and then the protein, your blood sugar is going to rise more than if you were to eat the fiber first, then the protein, then the carbs. Your blood sugar will be a bit more stable because the fiber actually creates kind of like a shield in your gut to prevent some of that sugar from being absorbed into your bloodstream. And also protein and fat, same thing. They're going to help keep your blood sugar more stable.
That's something I'm trying to get better at remembering because I always tend to eat the protein first, but having some kind of fiber, even before that, I've heard the same thing that you just said, that can be really helpful. So I'm trying to now eat like a raw carrot every day before dinner.
Oh, nice. Carrots are amazing for your skin. Also, I had a viral video on this.
Really?
Yeah, super viral. It was crazy. I wasn't expecting it. But carrots contain carotenoids, which are the plant pigment that give carrots their orange color. Carotenoids, they're antioxidants, beta carotene. In carrots, our body is converting that into vitamin A. So it's helpful for our skin in that regard. But carotenoids are also stored in the skin. So they actually give your skin a nice sort of yellow, golden, tan color or glow. And what's interesting is, when you think of someone who's sick, you think they're very pale, right?
Yeah.
And if you think of someone who's healthy, they typically have some color to their skin. And so eating a carotenoid-rich diet can actually help your skin maintain a little bit more of a glow or a tan.
That's so interesting. I'm doubling down on my pre-dinner carrots now.
Yes, for sure.
What are some other sources of carotenoids?
Anything orange, so sweet potato, butternut squash, any of those winter squashes would be good. Anything orange basically would have it, or even red and yellow. Red and yellow, like bell peppers, for example, those will be a source of carotenoids.
And good for the eyes too, right?
Exactly.
I've heard that like those foods are more in season during the winter because it's darker and it actually helps our vision, helps us to like see better when there isn't as much light.
Interesting.
Yeah. I don't know. I just think it's cool how like everything in nature is designed to promote health and healing. And it's so easy to become disconnected from that in the world in which we live in, where foods are shipped in from another country and, we're not in tune with like eating seasonally and being outside and having our circadian rhythm and our hormones regulated by light. I just love like learning about how everything actually is so connected. And if we can kind of go back to some of these old ancestral ways of living, they're going to support our health and our bodies so much.
Yeah. I think seasonal eating is maybe not the easiest thing to do.
No, it's not.
It's hard to find seasonal food sometimes because we do, especially if we're living in cities, there's no farm nearby and everything is being trucked in from all across the country. And so sometimes you can't even find anything that's grown locally. But if you could find, or maybe even start, maybe it's even just herbs. You grow some herbs on your windowsill or something. Just having something, in your garden, I think helps.
You've been really open about your views on Botox and anti-aging. Does Botox actually age the skin prematurely?
So what we're seeing now, especially with this push towards preventative Botox, of doing Botox in 20-year-olds who don't have wrinkles yet, is that when you paralyze the skin and there's no movement, the skin, or the muscle, I should say, actually atrophies. And so it can become more loose and saggy and more wrinkled over time. So you kind of have to keep doing it. And yeah, that's sort of the unspoken, truth about Botox is that when you start doing it too early, it can actually end up making you look older than you are. Besides for the fact that having a very frozen face does make you look older because young faces aren't frozen, so we have movement in our face. So yes, so I think with Botox, everyone needs to decide what to do for themselves. But I think this is another pharmaceutical that we're using that people aren't fully explained all of the side effects, before it's injected. And I think that there are definitely some people who will be like, okay, I don't care, sign me up, let's do it, But there are some people who may pause before doing it because there are some serious side effects of using Botox. It is, after all, the most toxic poison known to man. So do we really want to be injecting that into our bodies? I don't think so.
And you've shared your experience about injecting or having Botox injected into your armpits.
Yeah.
At an earlier age. Tell us about that.
So yeah, I mean, had this not happened to me, I might be injecting Botox in my forehead right now. But when I was like 17, 18 years old, I remember getting my nails done and reading all the magazines. And at the time, it was very popular for celebrities to get Botox injections under their arms to prevent them from sweating. And I sweat. I was like, I don't want to sweat. I'm going to go to my dermatologist. I'm going to ask for Botox under my arms. I went, they did it. Within a few days or a week, whatever it was, I'm still sweating. And I wasn't supposed to be sweating at this point. And at this time, I have no concept of lymph nodes and, health or anything like that, healthy eating, lifestyle, nothing. And so I go back to the dermatologist and I'm like, I'm still sweating. They're like, okay, we'll do it again. So they inject it again. Again, I have no idea how much they put in. After that second time, my lymph nodes under my arms started swelling like crazy. I mean, under this arm, it was like a golf ball.
Wow.
And it was so painful. And I would have this swelling kind of going on and off, honestly, for years. And I also developed, like shortly thereafter, something called morphia, which is a form of localized scleroderma. Basically, it was like a sheet of scar tissue, like you can actually see it. It's like red now, but this was an entire sheet of like shiny scar tissue.
Wow.
It's still like, you can still see my skin is discolored here. It's a bit red, and I did microneedling to try and get rid of it. And this is 20 years ago, by the way. So I still have this, but it's an autoimmune condition basically, which I believe was set off by the injection because it's also right, where I was having the swelling. So that's actually what got me into wellness, not so much the nutrition, but doing things like sauna, doing exercise, jumping, moving the lymphatic system. Because otherwise, if you don't do anything, your lymph is it's stagnant there. So you really need to move it. And doing like lymphatic massage, all of this stuff, I think is really important.
That is a wild story. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah.
Are people still doing that to prevent sweat?
Yes, they are. It's used it's called hyperhidrosis, which is like excessive sweating. People still use it. So I will say I don't sweat as much now. And I believe it's because my body is also more balanced. Mm-hmm. And I think just like anything else, just like acne, just like premature gray, whatever it is, if you're sweating excessively, it's a sign of some imbalance. And it's better to figure out, okay, what's causing that imbalance versus trying to cover it up.
Agreed.
Yeah.
In your opinion, what are the real foundations for aging gracefully and supporting healthy skin long term?
I think a nutrient-dense diet is definitely number one. Plenty of protein, bone broth, I think it's really great. I've also gotten into meat stock lately, which is similar to bone broth, but you're just using bones that have more meat on them. Very healing for the gut. Keeping your blood sugar stable, I think, is really important because when we have blood sugar fluctuations, that can actually degrade our collagen. So that can break down our collagen, leading to lines and wrinkles. So it's important to keep our blood sugar stable. And I think not stressing things, which is sometimes the hardest one. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we're like, I'll eat anything, just tell me what to do, But trying not to stress and actively getting yourself to a place where you don't let things stress you out that much, that is hard to do and something that I think we all have to actively work on. And I'm also not perfect with it, but I know, for example, when I'm meditating regularly, life is so much better. And it's not that my life is different. It's that I'm different. It's that I'm calmer and I'm less reactive. And so I think that managing our stress is really important. And I can see that even now, like amongst my parents and my in-laws and all their friends and things. When I look at that generation, some of them are very healthy and some of them are not. And it's not necessarily the ones that are eating the healthiest that are the healthiest. It's the ones that are the happiest. That's what I'm seeing. And so, yes, I'm not saying they're eating vegetable oils and junk food, but it's not just the food. It's the mood. It's the attitude.
Yeah, absolutely. And you touched on a few things, but for you personally, what are some other ways that you support your stress levels in your day-to-day life and routines and rhythms?
So I think having a plan for me helps reduce stress because I know what's happening when and I'm prepared for it. I like to be prepared. So I like to know what's going to happen when. So for me, that works. Some people that might not work, that might stress them out more. So find what works for you in that
Isn't
regard.
that funny? Like I'm the same way. I like to schedule things, and that doesn't mean that never changes or fluctuates, but I like to have a plan. Like you said, my husband, on the other hand, likes to just fly by the seat of his pants. Every minute of the day, everything is always in motion. I'm like, I don't know how you do that. Like I would go crazy.
It's the same with us. Maybe I guess opposites attract.
Yeah.
It's complete opposite. So that's one thing. I do feel meditation helps with stress. Find time in nature helps me with stress. So I do try to do my morning and evening walk every single day, even when I'm traveling, even, no matter what's going on in life. And again, I do miss walks here and there, but for the most part, I don't. And I would say those are probably some of the big things. Not eating sugar, I definitely find, because I'm not perfect. Like I don't eat perfectly all of the time. And I do find when I eat, for example, chocolate or something, I am a bit more anxious. I am a little bit more, on edge. And so eating a healthy diet also does help with stress because I feel like I just feel more calm and balanced also.
Yeah, absolutely. Maria, this has been an incredible conversation. You are a wealth of information on all things healthy living and caring for the skin from a holistic perspective. Where can our listeners find you and continue to learn from you and tap into all of your resources?
So best place would be my website, mariamarlowe.com, and Marlowe is spelled Marlowe. I'm also on Instagram as Maria Marlowe, and then YouTube and TikTok are Glow by Marlowe.
Awesome. And if you could give one last bit of encouragement for anyone who is struggling with their skin and just feels discouraged and doesn't know where to turn next, what would you say?
Acne or any skin issue, it's really a blessing in disguise. I know it doesn't feel that way right now, but it is. Because it's on our face or our skin, it helps us to try to figure out the root cause. And typically once we figure out the root cause, that's going to help not just our skin, but if we change our diet and lifestyle, that's better for our immune system, our mood, our overall health. So really, it is a blessing. And once you get to the other side, I think that will be more clear.
Love that. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you.